At 5:31 p.m. on November 4th, 1944, Squadron Leader Branse Burbridge climbed into his Mosquito night fighter plane at RAF Swannington as German radar signals lit up his navigator screen across occupied Europe. He was 23 years old. The former person who refused to fight had now flown 47 combat missions in 8 months. Bomber Command had lost 217 heavy bombers to German night fighters in October alone. Flight Lieutenant Bill Skelton sat down in the navigator's seat beside him. The radar operator adjusted his Serrate detector, a changed AI Mark IV radar. It picked up signals from German Lichtenstein sets at distances up to 80 miles. But tonight, the device showed something different. Multiple contacts, more than Skelton had seen in weeks. The problem had gotten worse since September. German night fighters were blending into RAF bomber groups without being seen. They positioned themselves beneath Lancasters and Halifaxes using upward-firing cannons called Serrate. The bomber crews never saw what killed them. In the Battle of Berlin, Bomber Command lost 574 aircraft. Most fell to night fighters. Ground crews at Swannington knew the numbers. Every night, they watched Mosquitoes take off. Some didn't return. Number 100 Group had formed specifically to fight this threat. 7 squadrons of Mosquito night fighters equipped with electronic detection gear. Their mission was simple: hunt the hunters. Find German night fighters using their own radar signals. Shoot them down before they reach the bomber groups. Since December 1943, the group had claimed 257 German aircraft destroyed. But the cost was high. 70 Mosquitoes lost. Burbridge started the Merlin engines. The wooden airframe shook as power built. He joined 85 Squadron in July 1943 after a year as an instructor. His first tour produced 1 probable kill, 1 damaged. Then he met Skelton. Everything changed. The navigator's skill with the Serrate system gave them an edge. They'd opened their account in February with a Messerschmitt 410 over the channel. By April, Burbridge had 5 victories. By October, 14. Tonight, they were flying a high-level intruder patrol southeast of Cologne. The briefing had been clear. Bomber Command was hitting Bochum. German night fighters would take off from bases across the Ruhr. Bonn, Hanover, Gütersloh, Cologne, Bonn. When they did, Mosquitoes would be waiting. Will Burbridge's tactics work tonight? Please hit the like button. It helps us share these untold war stories. And subscribe for more. Back to Burbridge. The Mosquito lifted off at 5:31 p.m. They crossed the English coast at 1,800 feet, went down to avoid coastal radar, then climbed to 15,000 feet over Belgium. Skelton watched his screens. The AI Mark X gave forward coverage out to 8 miles. The Serrate detector scanned for enemy radar ahead. Somewhere in the darkness over Germany, German night fighters were taking off. Pilots who'd survived dozens of missions, men with 10, 20, 30 kills. They had height advantage. They had numbers. They had experience hunting bombers. But tonight, for the first time, they were the prey. By 7:04 p.m., they were over German territory. Skelton's Serrate screen showed a contact 4 miles out, crossing right to left. Burbridge turned in behind it. The detector worked by receiving signals from German Lichtenstein radar. When Luftwaffe night fighters searched for bombers, they broadcast on frequencies between 490 and 600 megahertz. The Serrate picked up those signals, gave direction, not distance. Skelton had to guess distance by watching the signal strength. As they closed, he called adjustments. Left 2 degrees, steady contact strengthening. At 1,500 feet, Burbridge got visual, a dark shape against a darker sky. Night binoculars confirmed it. Junkers 88. The twin-engine fighter carried a crew of 3. Pilot, radar operator, rear gunner. It had 4 20mm cannons and 3 machine guns. Upward-firing Serrate music installed in some versions. The German aircraft was hunting. Its Lichtenstein SN. 2 radars swept the sky ahead, searching for bomber returns. The crew had no idea a Mosquito sat on their tail. Their radar looked forward, not behind. The Luftwaffe had learned about Serrate in September 1943 when 141 squadrons started operations. German High Command gave warnings, ordered night fighters to limit radar use. But with bomber groups filling the sky, they had no choice. Without radar, they were blind. Burbridge closed to 1,000 feet. The Junkers held steady course, flying west, still searching, still unaware. He armed the 4 Hispano cannons mounted in Mosquito's belly. Each gun held 175 rounds, a total of 700. But ammunition control mattered. Long bursts, wasted shots drew attention. Short, exact bursts, that was the rule. At 800 feet, the Junkers began a gentle turn. Skelton adjusted heading. They stayed behind, matched the turn. The German pilot was following directions from ground control. Bomber Command's main force was still 20 minutes from target. Night fighters were positioning early, setting up patrol lines. Burbridge closed to 400 feet. Through the gun sight, he could see the Junkers clearly now. Dark crosses on the body. The aircraft's exhaust glowed faint red. He placed the sight on the left engine. His way of doing things had been the same since February. Aim for engines, not cockpit. Give the crew a chance. Skelton knew this, never questioned it. They discussed it once. Both were Christians. Both wanted to stop the killing machine, not necessarily kill the men. The Junkers kept its course. Burbridge's finger moved to the trigger. A 3-second burst. That was the plan. Hit the engine. Watch for results. Adjust if needed. Then Skelton's voice came through the intercom. Contact. New contact. Distance 2 miles. Crossing left to right. Direction similar to their own. Close. Too close. Another German night fighter hunting the same area. The sky that seemed empty seconds ago was suddenly crowded. Burbridge made a decision in 2 seconds. First target first. He pressed the trigger. 4 Hispano cannons fired. Tracer rounds flew toward the Junkers. The burst lasted 3 seconds, exactly as planned. Shells tore into the left engine. Fire burst out immediately. Orange flames streamed back from the engine. The Junkers rolled hard right, diving away. Burbridge pulled up sharply to avoid debris. Skelton confirmed the kill at 7:06 p.m. The Junkers disappeared from sight at 3,000 feet, trailing fire. They didn't see it hit the ground, but German records later showed a Junkers 88G from Nackjagerschwader 1 crashed near the patrol area that night. Pilot bailed out. Radar operator and gunner killed. No time to watch. Skelton's second contact was closing. Distance 1 mile now. Burbridge turned northwest, searching. The Serrate detector gave direction, but the signal was weak on and off. The German pilot might be using radar carefully. Smart flying. The Luftwaffe had adapted since Serrate first appeared. Some crews ran silent until the last moment. Others shut down between sweeps. At 7:14 p.m., Skelton got solid contact again. 800 yards dead ahead. Same height. Burbridge increased power slightly. The Merlin responded. Airspeed climbed to 280 knots. The Mosquito gained on the target within 3 minutes. Visual confirmed. Another Junkers 88. Different version. This one showed clear antennas. The longer SN, 2 radar array. More recent production. The aircraft flew straight and level. No dodging. No sign they detected pursuit. Burbridge settled into firing position. 600 feet back, slightly below the standard approach. Skelton watched screens. No new contacts. They were clear, but something felt different. The Junkers was heading toward Bonhandler Airfield. The base sat 15 miles south of Cologne, major night fighter station, home to 2nd Staffel, Nackjagerschwader 1. More than 40 fighters operated from that field. If they got close, the situation would change fast. Burbridge closed to 400 feet. Placed the sight on the right engine this time. Changing things mattered. Being predictable could be deadly. He fired. A 3-second burst. 50 rounds from each cannon. 200 total. The shells hammered into the engine and wing root. Metal tore. Fuel caught fire. The entire right wing burst into flames. The Junkers pitched, nose down hard, rolling left. The pilot was fighting for control, but physics had already decided. More explosions rippled through the body. At 7:17 p.m., the aircraft flipped completely and dove. Skelton tracked it to impact. crashed in open farmland east of their position. No survivors. 2 German night fighters destroyed in 11 minutes. Burbridge had used about 150 rounds total. 550 remained. Skelton's voice came through the headset again. Multiple contacts, distance varying 3 miles to 5 miles, different directions, all meeting at one area. Bonhandler Airfield. The Germans were forming up, preparing to attack the bomber group, and Burbridge was flying straight toward them. At 7:23 p.m., they reached the area southeast of Cologne. Below, scattered lights marked Bonhandler Airfield. Skelton counted 6 separate radar contacts within 3 miles, all circling. The Germans were stacking. Standard procedure. Night fighters would circle a marked point, waiting for ground control to direct them toward bomber groups. Height separation kept them safe. 500 feet between each aircraft. Burbridge reduced power, went down to 14,000 feet. The circling pattern was clear now, clockwise rotation about 2 miles across. He made a choice that would have seemed crazy to most pilots. He joined the pattern. The Mosquito slipped into the circle between 2 contacts. Skelton watched spacing. 1,500 feet ahead was a German night fighter. 1,800 feet behind was another. They were flying in formation with the enemy. The Germans had no way to see, no way to tell friend from enemy in total darkness. Their radar looked outward for bombers, not at the aircraft next to them. For 90 seconds, they circled with the hunters. Skelton's screen showed the pattern changing as more fighters joined. 7 contacts now. 8. The Luftwaffe was gathering for the attack. Somewhere to the west, RAF bomber groups were getting close to their turning point. Within 30 minutes, German night fighters would break off and attack, unless they never made it to the bombers. Burbridge picked the contact ahead, distance closing slowly as he added slight power. The circling pattern meant they were all flying similar speeds, 230 knots. He needed to close without alerting the aircraft behind him. Smooth, gradual. At 7:28 p.m., visual contact. Messerschmitt 110, twin engine, heavier than the Junkers versions. This was a dedicated night fighter. No bombs, all guns. The Bf-110 carried 4 forward-firing cannons, 2 upward-firing Schrage Music, 1 rear defensive gun. Crew of 3. It was the Luftwaffe's main night fighter since 1940. Experienced pilots liked it. More stable gun platform than the Junkers. Burbridge closed to 500 feet. The Messerschmitt held position in the circle. Perfect spacing, professional flying. This crew knew what they were doing, which meant they were dangerous. Had to be stopped before they reached the bomber group. At 400 feet, he could see the aircraft clearly through the gun sight, the twin tail booms, the glass nose for the radar operator, exhaust stacks glowing. He aimed for the left engine. Fired. 3 seconds. The cannons hammered. Tracer rounds streamed forward. It's immediate. The left engine exploded. Fuel spray caught fire across the wing. The Messerschmitt rolled hard left, dropping out of the pattern. Burbridge pulled up and right, staying clear of the formation. The burning fighter fell away, spinning. It hit the ground at 7:30 p.m. German records confirm Bf-110 from 2nd Staffel NJG 1 crashed at Bonhandler. Pilot killed, 2 crew bailed out. 3 German night fighters destroyed in 27 minutes. But the formation knew now. Skelton's screen showed the pattern breaking. Aircraft scattering. Ground control was sending warnings. Intruder in the area. All fighters take dodging action. The element of surprise was gone, and they were still over enemy territory with enemy fighters all around them. 1 contact wasn't running. 1 contact was turning toward them. Skelton called the contact. Distance 1,200 yards, closing fast, direction 090. The German pilot had seen the explosion, seen the Mosquito shape against the flames. Was coming to check or fight. At night, 1,200 yards was close distance. Too close. Burbridge turned hard into the contact. The Mosquito banked 60 degrees. If the German expected them to run, this would surprise him. Night fighting was math, angles, closing rates, energy management. The pilot who controlled the merge controlled the fight. At 800 yards, Skelton got radar return. Confirmed contact. Junkers 88, the fourth type tonight. Different again from the others. Possibly AG version, the newest model, better radar, more firepower. These aircraft were becoming harder to surprise. The Luftwaffe was learning. 600 yards. Both aircraft were coming together. Combined closing rate over 400 knots. Burbridge had seconds to decide. Head-on pass or break-off. Head-on meant both vulnerable. Both aircraft firing, both exposed. But breaking off meant giving the German control, letting him make the rules. He held course. At 400 yards, the Junkers opened fire. Tracer rounds flew past the Mosquito's left wing. Close. The German gunner had them in sight. Burbridge waited. 300 yards. 200. The Junkers filled the gun sight. He fired. For cannons. Full burst. 5 seconds. Every remaining round in a focus stream. The Junkers shook. Multiple hits across the nose and cockpit. The glass bombardier position shattered. One engine caught fire, then the other. The aircraft pitched up sharply, rolled upside down, fell away burning. Impact at 7:40 p.m. German records showed Junkers 88G from 9th Staffel NJG, 1 crash near the Rhine. All crew killed. 4 German night fighters destroyed in 37 minutes. Burbridge had fired 200 rounds on the 4th target. Total used for the night, about 400 rounds. 300 remained, but they were spread across 4 magazines. Not enough for long fighting. Skelton reported clear scopes. No immediate contacts. The other German fighters had scattered after the warnings. Some were landing, others moving. The circling pattern was broken. For now, the immediate threat was reduced, but fuel was becoming a problem. They'd been flying over 2 hours. The Mosquito carried enough for about 4 hours total, but operating over Germany meant reserves. Burbridge turned northwest, heading for home. Behind them, 4 German night fighters burned on German soil. For crews who would never attack another bomber. For aircraft that would never kill another Lancaster crew. The math was simple, brutal, necessary. As they crossed back over Belgium, Skelton made notes for the combat report. Times, locations, aircraft types, ammunition used. It was 7:52 p.m. They'd be back at Swannington by 9 p.m. if weather held. But something bothered Skelton. The detector showed on and off returns behind them. Weak signals. Could be friendly, could be enemy. At this distance, over 2 miles, identification was uncertain. They were tired, low on ammunition, heading home. The smart choice was to keep going, get out of enemy airspace, land safely, report success. But the signal was growing stronger. The signal got stronger, distance under 2 miles. Skelton improved the direction. It was tracking them, matching their course change when they turned northwest. Either very disciplined, friendly escort or German night fighter looking for revenge at night over occupied territory. Guessing wrong killed. Burbridge went down at 12,000 feet, dropped in a cloud layer. The Mosquito disappeared into gray darkness. No way to see. Flying on instruments. If the contact was using radar, clouds provided no protection. But if it was visual pursuit, they'd lost him. 3 minutes in cloud. Skelton watched the screens. The contact faded. Distance opening. Whoever it was had lost them or stopped following. They climbed back to 13,000 feet. Came out into clear air. Stars overhead, scattered clouds below. The Dutch coast was 40 miles ahead. At 8:08 p.m., they crossed the enemy coastline. Anti-aircraft batteries at IJmuiden opened fire, but the Mosquito was too high, too fast. Black puffs burst below them. They were clear over the North Sea now. Friendly territory in 20 minutes. Skelton ran systems check. Fuel showed 200 gallons, enough for another hour if needed. Hydraulics normal. Engines normal, no damage from the fight. The Mosquito had worked perfectly. 4 targets, 4 kills, 0 hits taken. The wooden airframe's advantage was speed and ability to turn. They had used both tonight. Burbridge's hands were steady on the controls, but his mind was thinking. 4 German night fighters in 37 minutes. Most crews got 1 victory per tour. Some never got any. They destroyed 4 in a single mission. The meaning was big for the squadron, for the group, for Bomber Command. But he also knew the cost. 4 German pilots dead, others wounded, families who would get telegrams. He'd aimed for engines where possible, but the fourth fight had been different. Head on, no choice. The reality of war was unavoidable. Stop the machine. Save the bomber crews. That was the mission. At 8:21 p.m., the English coast appeared ahead. Norfolk RAF Swannington sat 15 miles inland. They'd been flying 2 hours, 50 minutes. Skelton radioed tower. Mosquito returning. For victories claimed. Permission to land. The controller's voice came back immediately. Cleared straight in. Runway 27. Wind light. Weather clear. The airfield lights showed at 8:28 p.m. Burbridge entered the pattern. Reduced power. Extended flaps. Landing gear down. 3 green lights confirmed. The Mosquito settled onto the runway at 8:32 p.m. Smooth touchdown. They rolled out, turned onto the taxiway, went to parking area. Ground crew were waiting. Always waiting. They counted aircraft out. Counted them back. Tonight, one Mosquito returned with amazing news. The crew chief came over as engines shut down. For kills. The word spread immediately through the ground workers. For in one night, no one had done that. Burbridge and Skelton climbed out, filled out starting combat reports, times, positions, aircraft types, ammunition used. The intelligence officer would question them fully tomorrow, get detailed accounts, match with German records eventually. But tonight, starting claims stood. 1 BF-110 destroyed, 3 Ju-88s destroyed. Other Mosquitoes from 100 Group had scored that night. 3 BF-110s total claimed across all squadrons. But Burbridge and Skelton's count was never done before. What they didn't know was that this single mission would change everything. By November 5th, word reached Bomber Command Headquarters. Air Chief Marshal Arthur Harris reviewed the report personally. For confirmed kills, single crew, single mission, 200 rounds per kill average. The efficiency was amazing. More importantly, the plan worked. Serrate-equipped Mosquitoes could hunt German night fighters in their own airspace, mess up their operations before they reached bomber groups. Within a week, 100 Group changed training rules. Burbridge and Skelton were asked to teach other crews, explain the method, how to join enemy formations without being seen, when to fight, how to manage ammunition. The circling pattern entry became standard. Other squadrons used it immediately. The impact showed in November's numbers. Bomber Command lost 152 aircraft that month, down from 217 in October. German night fighter success decreased 28%. 100 Group claimed 63 enemy aircraft destroyed. Burbridge and Skelton were responsible for 7 of those. Their total stood at 17 by month's end. The Germans noticed. Luftwaffe High Command gave new orders. Night fighters were told to reduce radar use to minimum. Some crews refused, knowing it meant flying blind. Others followed orders and their kill rates dropped. The Serrate system had created a problem. Use radar and risk detection. Don't use radar and miss bombers entirely. By December, the event had a name. Mosquito Shrek. Mosquito Terror. German night fighter pilots reported constant fear during landing approaches. The most vulnerable moment. Gear down, flaps extended, slow low, no ability to turn. Mosquito intruders would circle airfields for hours waiting. When German fighters came home tired after missions, the hunters struck. Burbridge and Skelton continued operations through December. On the 12th, they destroyed a BF-110 and Ju-88 near Essen. December 23rd, another BF-110 near Koblenz. Their victory total reached 20 by year's end, one more than Group Captain John Cunningham. Cat's Eyes Cunningham, the legendary night fighter ace. Burbridge's former squadron commander. January 2nd, 1945. Final mission. Southwest of Ludwigshafen. Bomber Command was attacking oil refineries. Burbridge and Skelton flew escort. At 10:15 p.m., Skelton got contact. For miles closing. Visual confirmed. Ju-88. Standard approach. 400 feet. 3-second burst. Left engine fire. The aircraft crashed. All crew killed. Victory number 21. the highest-scoring British and Commonwealth night fighter partnership of the war, passing Cunningham's record. Air Vice Marshal Addison, 100 Group Commander, sent personal congratulations. Distinguished Service Order, bar added for both men. But the real achievement wasn't the medals, wasn't the record, it was the math. 21 German night fighters destroyed meant 21 crews that never reached bomber groups. Each German night fighter averaged 6 bomber kills per year. Simple multiplication. Burbridge and Skelton save about 126 bomber crews, 1,260 RAF lives. The invisible hunter had become visible, and the Germans believed it, because the proof was burning across their airfields every night. March 1945, Burbridge left 85 Squadron, sent to Night Fighter Leader School as commanding officer. The war in Europe had 2 months remaining, but his combat tour was complete. Skelton stayed with the squadron briefly before his own assignment. Their partnership had lasted 13 months, 21 victories, 0 losses. After Germany surrendered, both men made the same decisions. They left the RAF, studied religion. Burbridge went to Oxford, history degree first, then religion. Skelton chose Cambridge, Trinity Hall. Both felt called to ministry. The war had shown them death. Now, they wanted to show people life. Burbridge joined Scripture Union in 1948. Youth ministry. He spent decades working with students, holiday programs, sixth form courses. Never spoke much about the war. When pressed, he'd say one thing. I aim for engines, not cockpits. I want to stop the machine, not kill the men. His logbook stayed in a drawer, his medals in a box. Skelton was made Anglican priest, became chaplain at Clare College, Cambridge, later rector of Market Harborough. His war service rarely came up in sermons. He focused on peacemaking, forgiveness, the things that mattered after fighting ended. 100 Group shut down December 17, 1945, 7 months after victory in Europe. The electronic warfare methods developed by the group became standard rules. After-war air forces worldwide used Serrate ideas, radar detection, electronic countermeasures. The invisible hunt. It changed how night fighting worked forever. The Mosquito served until 1951 in RAF service, longer in other air forces. But the aircraft's legacy wasn't how long it lasted. It was versatility. Bomber, fighter, spy plane, intruder. One airframe, multiple jobs. Wooden construction that performed better than metal competitors. De Havilland's gamble on an unarmed fast bomber turned into one of the war's most effective aircraft. Burbridge and Skelton stayed close friends until Skelton's death in 2003. They'd meet sometimes, talk about religion, family, rarely about November 4th, 1944. That night belonged to history now, to the RAF, to the 1,260 bomber crew members who came home because 21 German night fighters didn't. Branse Burbridge died November 1st, 2016, 95 years old. By then, his medals had been sold to pay for care. His family needed the money. The nation had moved on, but the record stayed. 21 victories. Highest-scoring British night fighter ace. The invisible hunter who Germans couldn't believe existed until the proof burned across their skies. Stories like Burbridge and Skelton's remind us that new ideas win wars. Serrate radar, intruder plans, electronic warfare. These weren't just technical advances. They were force multipliers that saved lives. Every night fighter they shot down meant bomber crews that came home. If you found this story valuable, please like this video and subscribe for more untold war stories. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Thank you for watching and for keeping these stories alive.